here. Those that are joining us by way of social media, we're glad that you're part of the group as well. I just have a couple announcements. I want to give Chris an announcement, and Chris is already occupied in the crow nest, so a lesson learned. Be careful when you have an announcement. You may be doing them, but that's okay. We'll make it work. Sue Lovett is still in Parkview, but she's been moved to room 607, so if you'll make that note, especially on the mailings. And that's all the information of the sick I have. I'll do some more research, get all that updated. Is there any others at this time that need to be added to the list? Okay.
I don't need to be added to the list, but I just want to thank all these wonderful people for all the prayers, the gifts, the phone calls. You're all the best. Love you all.
You're more than welcome, Patty. Anything else? I think Chris said we don't have any volunteers this weekend. Is that right? Or Corey said that, told me one day this week. There's been a lot of work this week go on, but I don't think we have any volunteers. And then I think with the next week they resume in force. So that's good. Lots of work going on. If there's nothing else, Jason will introduce our speaker for today. Jason.
It's good to see all of you here today, and we are so thankful to have Hal and Mary Ferguson with us today. Hal will be doing a report on the Chamala missions and preaching for us at the next hour. I'll save a more formal introduction for our next service, but I would like to really encourage you to hear what Hal has to say, go to their website on Chamala missions, and keep Hal and Mary and his son Nathan and his wife Christy in your prayers as they're involved in this such valuable, organized, and long-standing work in Tanzania. We're so thankful you're here today, Hal. Thank you very much.
And so we've been looking forward to coming back, and so we're happy that time has come and we're able to be with you today. It's been a long time, and so I hope there'll be some things that you'll be familiar with. There may be some things that'll be new to you. And I want to start by standing here, and if it doesn't work very good, I'm going to move down there. Okay, be a little bit closer to the little dickmadoo up there. So, but anyway, let me just go ahead and try and get on through here. But the Chamala mission is, here we are. Let me try it. This is going to be fun, I can tell. Do I need to go ahead and try to come down a little closer? Would that help? Okay. Let me try it now. All right. The first button is just not working, is it? Okay. Let me just try to come down. Doesn't help even a little bit, does it? Okay, well, I'll go back up and I'll just do like this. Is that okay? Okay. We'll do whatever we have to do to make this work. So, all right. Okay. It's not going to work. Okay. Well, anyway, it was nice trying. You may not remember, this is a logo that we had started. It was a little bit different than the one that we had earlier, previous to 2019. And, of course, that was when I became the new stateside coordinator. So next slide. I want to begin the presentation by as a kind of a memory to Cindy Stinson. Cindy passed away in January of last year. January 14th of this year. And Bill and Cindy had been longstanding workers with the Chamala Mission. Bill was an elder at the New York Avenue congregation for about, a long time, and then he worked with the mission for about 20 years as an elder, actually as a missionary, and as stateside coordinator. And but Cindy, in fact, the reason that I began working was because Bill his health was declining, and Cindy had Alzheimer, and so he knew that he wasn't going to be able to continue in that work. So we want to remember Cindy and family, and remember Bill and the time that the difficult times that he has, certainly ahead of time. Okay. Again, I'm Hal Ferguson, with a stateside coordinator, and we appreciate your prayers. And our son Nathan, he's our younger son. He and Christy, with their children Eden, Emmy, and Rowan, started as full-time missionaries last year. Of course, Rowan's new, so he wasn't there, but he began. They began starting to work last year full-time, and they're home on furlough. Of course, she had the baby in December, and so they had to wait to get their passport for the baby, and now they're planning on going back in March the 17th full-time, okay? This is when they were getting all their suitcases packed. This was the day that we were actually traveling to Nashville to get ready to travel overseas. This is Eden and Emmy with their new little brother, okay? The Dalrado Church of Christ, again, began the oversight of the congregation of the mission work beginning in January of 2019. And so they've been a great congregation to work with. We go and visit them fairly regularly, bringing supplies down there, report to the mission committee, to the elders, and so we always appreciate seeing them. Okay, the beginning of the presentation, I like to think about the mission as kind of like a wagon wheel, because it is a multifaceted work, and there are a lot of aspects, a lot of particular parts and pieces to the mission. And so I think the wagon wheel works really well, because as you have a wheel, you've got the rim, you have the spokes, and then you have the center hub, okay? And I think about that and trying to describe the mission as it has different aspects of the work: the primary school, the school of preaching, the hospital, missionaries, the estate, the secondary school, the farm program, which is missing spoke there. But it's all centered around the hub, or the purpose, the primary reason for the mission to be there to start with, and that is to seek and to save that which is lost, Luke 19:10. And so we emphasize evangelism quite a bit. There's a lot of work to do in that area. Always, you have people who are coming and going, and new generations that come up. Jason had mentioned that the mission was a long-standing work. It goes back, really, actually, its roots back into the 50s with Elder Eccles and Guy Caskey and Andrew Conley and others who were involved in that work. And then they built the hospital in 1965, and there's a lot of history involved in that. But all of that was for the purpose of trying to evangelize the area of southern Tanzania. Here's kind of a different angle of the wagon wheel you might see. You can see different pictures that represent the different parts of the mission. And of course, you have all these different departments, and they all work together. And all of this mission is on a piece of property, actually two pieces of property that makes up about 750 acres. This was done because at the time, in the 50s and early 60s, trying to be able to be established in the country, there was the need to try to make it a self-sustaining mission. It was more or less successful, mostly unsuccessful. But what we've been trying to do in the last 3 years is try to turn the mission to a self-sustaining, self-running, self-propagating, self-ruling mission with a congregation that oversees the work. Our ultimate goal is to turn the oversight of the work from an American overseeing church to a local congregation there on the mission. So that's our goal. It's a little bit lofty. We have made some inroads, but that is our ultimate goal. That's our philosophy of our work. We want them to own the work and it be their work, okay? Tanzania is located there in eastern Africa. It's there on the Indian Ocean. You can see the I call three major cities that basically we've been involved in the past. Of course, Dar es Salaam was the old capital. Dodoma is a center city. It's not actually on the map right now, but Dar es Salaam is the major seaport city. It's the largest city, and that's where we generally fly into land. You see Arusha to the north. We worked as missionaries in early 2000, 2003, and then further south, all the way to the bottom there, you see Chamala, which is not that large of a place, but it is the center focus of the Chamala mission. So you can kind of see the location. We fly into Dar es Salaam, and then we fly about an hour and a half in a local flight to get to Mbeya, which is about 2.5-hour road trip to Chamala, okay? A lot of interesting things about Chamala, about Tanzania, in fact. I've always told people that generally speaking, anything you can imagine about Africa, the continent of Africa, you can pretty much sum up or find represented there in the country of Tanzania. In fact, Mount Kilimanjaro is the tallest freestanding mountain in the world. It's the tallest mountain in Africa. It's not the tallest mountain in the world, but the tallest freestanding mountain. It's not part of a chain. And so it's quite impressive. It's striking. And when you're flying over, if you're fortunate enough to be flying during the daytime going toward Dar es Salaam, you can't miss it. All right? I keep trying to put animals in the slides. I tell people, another one there, just continue with the animals there. But I used to have animals in there, and I thought, well, people don't want to see the animals. They want to know about the work. So I took the animals out, and guess what? People started saying, well, where's the animals? So I started putting the animals back in them again. So, okay, there's your animal slides. There's about 60 million people in the country, about $2 to $3 a day income. That varies, of course, but that's pretty much average if you take in consideration the very poor people that are in the bush. And one of the interesting things about Tanzania is they are a poor country. They're one of the poorest in the world, third world country, and yet there is food. In fact, where Chimala Mission is, it's in the Usangu Plains in the Great Rift Valley, and there's rice plantations, rice fields. Because of the Chimala River, we always have water, so they use the water to irrigate that area, and there are literally thousands of acres of some of the best rice you'll eat in the world. So it is a poor country, and yet it's rich in resources and other areas, okay? This picture here, well, that didn't turn out too good. But anyway, that's the better one. Yeah, the mission there, introducing. That's a Google Earth. That's not a drone. I wish I had a drone that could fly that high. But that's a Google Earth photo of the mission. You can see the Great North Road on the top of the picture. To the left side is the Chimala River. And then on the right side, you can't really see it. There's a little road. And then to the bottom of the picture, you eventually come up to what's known as the Tipengari Mountains or the Livingstone Mountains. And there's about 450 acres in that general area. And then behind the mission, next slide, behind the mission, you see the old Elsa farm. And that was the original mission when Elder Eccles and others came and they settled that area. That was an old German pig farm pre-World War I. And, of course, the Germans lost that property to the British, as it was a British colony, and it continued in operations under a man by the name of James Cormick. And I'm tempted to give history, but I know I don't have a lot of time. But the long story short is Elder Eccles and Guy Caskey bought that property from Cormick, and they continued a mission. Dale Dennis started the Tanganyika Bible School, printed a lot of material, and then he eventually moved the school to Dar es Salaam. Well, the mission continued a little bit, but in the 1970s, it kind of fell to the wayside because the hospital was built there on the lower 400 acres, and it became the greater focus. And so that was abandoned, and I'll tell you more about that to the end. But we still have both tracts of land, and you see in the top of the screen the little squiggly marks. That's 57 hairpin curves that you had to drive up to get from about 3,500 feet to about 6,500 feet. And so that's the access to be able to get to those two pieces of property. All right? That's actually a drone footage picture taken from the north side of the mission looking at, from the south side looking north at the Chimala Mission Hospital, okay? On the mission, this is during the rainy season. It's green, beautiful, plush. Actually, right now, they are in the middle of their rainy season. This is pretty much what it looks like. This is the Mays house, built for Dr. Mays when he was the first doctor to actually move to the mission. And there are several houses like this on the mission that were built for different missionaries, different purposes when we had more missionaries. Many different roads that meander through the mission. It's a very enjoyable, pleasant place to be. I always thoroughly enjoy going. In fact, even in the dry, dusty time, I still love being there. It's just something about it. And so there's lots of large mango trees that are scattered all over the mission. In fact, I've been told by a number of people that work on the mission that if we did not own the mission, that would just be flat bush and dry, arid, because they would cut down every tree on the mission for firewood. And, of course, we don't allow them to do that, and so we're actually kind of a little oasis of what the property, what the whole land was once before. That's the Chimala River. It runs year-round. This is a little bit higher season of the water, but it comes up from the Tipengari Mountains way up high, up close to 11,000 feet, creates the headwaters of that river, and it is definitely puts the mission on the map. We have a canal that comes through as well. The hospital is a major part of the mission. The reason the hospital was even built to start with, because you don't generally hear about the Churches of Christ having hospitals. I don't know of any really others. There may be some. I figure if you can buy a Band-Aid, you can buy a hospital, but that's another topic for another time. But the bottom line is the hospital was built because the government would not recognize the Churches of Christ unless they did something socially for the country. And so Brother Andrew Conley went back, talked to the elders, they discussed several things, and they decided a hospital was the best thing. And so they had a little small metal building clinic, and they moved out of that, built the hospital. Julius Nyeri, the first president, was there as the honored guest to speak and to welcome the work there. So the hospital began at that time. It has all the major wards. It has, that center area is kind of the waiting room. It's in the center. It's a quad. You have a ladies' ward, a maternity ward, a men's ward, children's ward, a major and a minor theater. We also have a wellness, new mother wellness center where they educate mothers about as far as, pre-health care for expectant mothers, and then also how to take care of the children, to keep them healthy, and post care for themselves as well. We also have an AIDS section. A lot of AIDS in that country, tuberculosis, other illnesses and things that they have, that they treat, malaria, so many things that happen at the hospital. Bus wrecks we have, sometimes they'll bring 40, 50 patients in at a time, okay? 128 beds in the hospital. We treat up to 60,000 patients a year. That's a lot of people. About 3,000 babies are born there a year, and that's not an exaggeration by any stretch at all. About 130 people are employed. We're trying to reduce that number to make it a more efficient hospital, and we're one of the few hospitals on what's known as the Great North Road that runs through that area, and so we have lots and lots of people who come through there for medicine, they have illnesses, and surprisingly, we have not had one verified COVID case at Chimala Mission Hospital at this point that we know of. And they would have pretty good ways of knowing if there were, because they generally keep up of the number of sicknesses and deaths and those kind of things. They always have respiratory issues just because of the nature of the type of houses they live in. They're not sealed homes, those kind of things, but nothing unusual other than that has occurred at the hospital, okay? We have 2 chaplains. One of them is a recent graduate of when we were known as the Chimala Bible Institute, which was associated with the Bear Valley Bible Institute as an extension school. And then another brother on the right, he was one of the early school graduates of the old CSOP, okay? And so they attend to the people there at the hospital, have prayer, Bible studies, and those kind of things. Just one of the pictures of one of the dorms. This is inside the children's dorm. It's quite heartbreaking, it can be, to go here. I try to go just because I feel like I need to see what's going on when we're over there, and it is heartbreaking, but I'm glad it's there, okay? This is actually in our pharmacy. These are 3 individuals that work in the pharmacy. That is always a challenge, keeping enough medicines without getting into debt. So that is always one of our challenges at the hospital. This is one of the nursing students. Every year we have at least 2 groups of nursing students. One group comes usually middle May from Harding, and then OCU usually comes about middle June, about 5 to 6 weeks. And they send their nursing students over with an instructor, and they work with the hospital. And it's quite an experience for them that they never forget, okay? Some churches do different things. These are representative of things that a church in the Panhandle, Texas does every year. In fact, I just came back a couple months ago with a truckload full of boxes that they had made these, receiving blankets and book bags and dresses and diaper shirts, and they do these kind of things. I had 70 boxes of these that these ladies had worked to put together. And I understand that some of the ladies have done some of those things here too, so we appreciate that very much. But they're gathered, they're collected, saved up, put to storage down in Dalreda, in Montgomery, and then when we have enough to gather together, we do a shipment. A 40-foot container goes across the ocean, is cleared, and eventually brought over to Chimala. It's quite an undertaking, but it is really a great work, okay? We try to get everybody involved. This is Eden when she was over there, and we have some of the things that some of the ladies do. They make handmade dolls and those kind of things, and these mothers have sick babies. Sometimes they lose their babies, and so we have different kind of programs where we give them gifts, or even a mother that's lost her child, she receives a type of a token gift from the Church of Christ, let them know that we are very sad and we are Wanted to just give them some kind of a thing to let them know that we are thinking and praying for them, okay? We have plans to build a sterile operational theater to take over the old one. If I had to have an operation at Chamala, I'd do it, but it'd have to be a have-to case. But we've had plans drawn up, and we've had funds donated, and when we go over there in April, we want to get started with construction to improve our major operational theater. We have a new table, a large stainless steel table, operating table. We have some lights, and we want to make it as sterile as possible. And I understand, I talked to Dr. Frank Black about this, and he said, well, don't be fooled thinking it will be a sterile operational theater, but it will be as much as we can make it with what we have to do. So that will be a great improvement that we're looking forward to the hospital, okay? Cheryl Bodie, she was an RN that worked at the hospital for about 5 years, returned home. She's going back, and we're really happy about that in a number of ways. First of all, we needed an American working with the hospital, but also with Nathan Christie with the little girls and Rowan as a newborn. We feel a lot more comfortable knowing that she will be there. Malaria is something you have to take very, very seriously, especially with children. We saw our administrator lose a 1-year-old girl when we were there several years ago, and that is a experience we don't want to repeat, okay? On the mission, again, there's different various things. Our schools, I can barely make out the black words, so the font's a little different, isn't it? So, but anyway, that's a picture showing where some of our school buildings. We have a primary and a secondary school combined, about 550 kids. The primary school was built first, and it is really an experience. If you're a teacher or you just like to see a lot of children gather together, these kids come from all over Tanzania. I'd say less than half of them come from Christian families or members of the Church of Christ. Some of them come from Muslim families, Lutheran, Pentecostal, just various different Catholic organizations, and some nothing. Yet they come here, they hear the gospel taught every day in chapel, at morning chapel at 7:30, all across the mission. We have Bible knowledge classes. Some of our graduates from the CSOP go over there and teach Bible knowledge to these kids. And so it's a very rewarding work. It's a very loud and noisy work, but it is a great work. This is a secondary school. They wear a little bit different uniform. We have capacity for about 300 kids. We only have about 120 right now. So we're looking at always trying to improve things so we can get more kids. Again, most of these are non-Christian families, non-Christian kids. But by the time they finish their education, a good number of them have obeyed the gospel. And so, again, these kids are all trained and taught. We're one of the higher graded level classes in our area. We always generally get good reviews from our schools. Again, these kids are taught in a Christian worldview and background, and so that's the only way we would have it, okay? Some of the classrooms, we have gotten some new desks, but these are some of the older desks that we've had, the kids use. And some of these old desks were made from lumber that came off the mission, okay? One of the neat things that we get to do every year, it's like I said, different churches make different things. Some congregations make book bags, and every single book bag is different pattern, different style. A different lady has made this. I don't know of any men that make these. Maybe they do. I don't know. But they're all made, and they're all different. And so each child, with beginning of school year, these children come up and they get a school bag, and it has crayons or scissors or glue or paper or pens, pencils, whatever it is that their grade requires, and we try to provide that to them at the beginning of every school year. And it's a very, very enjoyable thing to witness. We have a large structure building here that we have large assemblies, graduations, other different things. A lot of times they'll take their national exams so that they can pass to go on to the next levels if they're going from primary school to secondary school. And so that's a great facility, okay? Then, of course, we have the CSOP, the School of Preaching, which is what I was involved in for a long time, and, of course, our local evangelism, okay? We have a nice campus, I would say. This is when the grass was cut, so this is actually a better day. But you see the beautiful Tipperary Mountains in the background. We're right up to the edge of it, right on the Rift Valley. And so it's a striking beautiful location and view. And this is one of our school buildings. You can see the church building to the left. There's another school building that we have our chapel, our printing offices, and those kind of things. So we have a really nice campus. We have a good library, a very good library. I'd say it's one of the best organized and field of Churches of Christ on the entire continent, I would say. Maybe Arusha Bible, maybe the Andrew Connolly School Preacher might have a little bit better one. I don't know, but in Arusha. But ours will be very, very close to that, okay? All right, just continue to go on. These are some of the classes. These are graduating classes that I've been a part of. This is one here. We've had several others I don't have the pictures of. This was the first graduating class when we became a Bear Valley Extension School. This is our first class. We started in 05, graduated them in 07, and that was a fun day. Here Nathan is speaking in chapel in our larger chapel classroom. This is just a snapshot of different scenes, pictures that Frank, our director of the School of Preaching, sends me. He'll send like weekly reports of their weekend evangelism. And these guys go out, they take the truck, they go out, and they will spend all day Saturday and all Sunday afternoon, and they'll go to village. They'll be like an instructor will take 2 or 3 students, and they'll go here and one will go there, and they'll scatter out these places and just do door knocking, hand out tracts, set up Bible studies, correspondence courses, and so you can see some of these pictures of them doing that. We have some ladies that are in our classes, and they go and you see on the bottom right, one of our graduates, actually he's a graduate now, teaching some children. So we have a very active evangelism program, not to mention the other things, okay? For the Mission Congregation sponsors a lot of our activities, okay? This is inside the auditorium, pretty full building. These are the 4 elders. We had 2 elders, and one of them was getting very old, Brother Linkos Nkwama. This guy's fit as a fiddle. I mean, he's like 90 years old, and he hoes his garden. He walks everywhere he goes. He preaches. He teaches Bible class. He's an elder. He was one of the first graduates of the old Tanganyika Bible School when it was up on the mountain behind us. But he's still going strong. In fact, he was kind of Andrew Connolly's right-hand man whenever the Connollys were working over there. He's still there on the far left, but we know he's not going to last forever. He's a great guy, and he's got great energy, but we just know, eventually reality catches up with us. So another 2 men were added. Bernard Kilongo on the far right, he was our administrator of the hospital for over 25 years. He's now one of our elders. I've been wanting to see that happen for a long time, and now we have 4 elders. The young man in the middle, he was a recent graduate, a very sharp guy. He is now their new preacher. And this is the congregation there on the mission. This is the congregation that we hope and pray, Lord willing, will one day be the overseeing church. We have seminars. This is a group of preachers who gather together for our preacher seminar. And then we have a ladies seminar following that week. And this was actually, this picture here, this last year, 2021, was our largest class, our largest group of ladies in record of our having ladies seminars there at the Chamala Mission. So it's a lot of fun. You can ask Mary and other ladies that are there. And we have a youth seminar also the week after that. And I really like these because these churches are small. A lot of these churches are very small. Maybe 4 or 5, maybe 10, maybe 20. Very few are going to have more than about 30. And so a lot of times these children, these young people grow up, and they don't really know anybody else who are Christians. But there may be one over in a village 40 miles away. They'll never go there, or 100 miles away. And so this gives a chance for these young people to meet each other and hopefully, Lord willing, to form Christian families. Okay? We have the Gospel Chariot that we generally use every year. We haven't used that in the last 2 years just because of COVID. But I really like these things. I may have told you about these before in the past. They're basically, it's a gospel meeting on wheels. It's a Mercedes-Benz truck that folds out. It's got chairs, correspondence courses, a baptistry, PA system, generator, tracks, everything to set up, changing room, tracks, and all kind of stuff that comes with it that we're able to use usually 4 or 5 weeks in the summer. And so that's always an eye catcher. It draws attention. People want to know, what is this? And instead of hearing a lot of blaring, crazy stuff, they're actually hearing the gospel truth. And so we really like that program. These are some of our preachers and students. we like to blare it out too, so this gets really loud, and they go out in places, and they can do that. We can't do that here. The last time I was able to do anything close to that was in Trenton, Tennessee. I got invited to speak. Brent Smith was going out of town somewhere, and I got to stand in the back of a pickup truck with a microphone, and everybody was sitting in their cars tuning in to FM. so that's the closest I've ever been able to do what these guys are doing. Okay? Of course, this is the point. We're trying to get people reached for the gospel. We're trying to bring them into the family of God. And it's many different congregations that are around the Chimala Mission area. I wish I could tell you about all of them. That's some sweet, one of the I think better congregations. Nathan here is preaching with the Ezekiel translating for him. Okay, another one of the congregations. How you like those kind of pews? That's concrete. That's solid concrete. Well, bricks in the middle. Okay, this is Chosier, one of our favorite little churches. They only have maybe 5 or 8 people, adults. Okay, but lots and lots of kids. And so usually we'd go on a Wednesday night. I might teach the adults. I might have 2 or 3 people. But Mary's outside with 20, 30 kids. And she's learned some Swahili, and she's translated a lot of material and had it laminated. And they sing, and she teaches classes. And it's a really enjoyable, satisfying work. These kids come from just all over the village. You just come out there, and the preacher there, he just says a few things, starts shouting around, and the kids start coming from all over the place. Okay? The farm program. This is a new thing for us. I'm not a farmer. We've had a lot of help. We've had some assistance. We've had some recommendations and things. We've had some failures. These are beans that were planted there at the old Elsa farm that we don't want it to sit doing nothing. Okay? These are farm workers. This changes a little bit, but this is the beginning of the farm program with some of the workers that were helping us and some of the students also. In fact, we engage our students, the CSOP students, in the farm program because we want them to help supplement their income. We give them a small stipend for going to school, if you want to call it a stipend. That's what they call it. And but then they get a row, and they're responsible for taking care of their row. They till it, they plant it, they do the whole 9 yards, and they harvest it. They can eat it, they can sell it, they can send it back home, whatever they want to do. But that's part of the program, of the farm program. And we think that busy people make good students. Okay? And there's Nathan with Ezekiel. I've known Ezekiel a long time. He was one of our graduates. He was kind of my right-hand man. We were working back in 2015. He's now kind of Nathan's right-hand man. You can see the beans in the background. But he is an entrepreneur. He's got every phone number of every person I've ever met in Tanzania. He's got it on his speed dial. He's an incredible guy. Here they are working, slashing, kind of cleaning up the garden areas. We got a tractor. I might have shown you this to you in a previous, in 2019. No, I wouldn't have. This was new to you, I guess. I was in Arlington, Texas, did a presentation talking about how we needed a tractor. We didn't really have anything adequate. And as I was driving home from Texas, coming home, I got a phone call from a brother at this congregation. He said, he's a farmer. This guy's a farmer. He said, well, how are you going to farm if you don't have a tractor? I said, well, that's good logic. So he sends us a check to buy this tractor. And it has been a real great asset. A little 3-cylinder diesel turbo. It's all the tractor we need. Okay? We have a mill. So we built this mill. We mill our own corn. We mill our own rice. We even mill for the community. We have it open for the community so we can mill theirs as well. So this helps us in a lot of ways. It helps us generate income and saves us a lot of money. Okay? We have cattle. This is not probably the way you should raise cattle. Just let them wander everywhere. That's kind of what they do. I'm not sure how far this program will go because that's more of a long-term program, and it takes a lot of money invested up front. So we're just kind of experimenting with it right now. But I know Nathan said they had all the milk they could drink. So they've got some new calves, and we're kind of experimenting with that program. You can see we have, as I said, the river runs along the west side of the mission, and then we have a canal, and we have a hydrum. It's a hydraulic ram that pumps water from lower areas to higher areas that helps to provide water from the mission, besides the deep well that we have. But they're able to irrigate this large a couple of acre area and other areas so that we can have crops growing year-round. We can have tomatoes and Chinese cabbage and okra and a lot of things, squash and things provide for the mission, okay? And there you can see the little irrigation that runs, and of course Emmy's demonstrating how it all works there, okay? And we have lots of onions. They eat lots and lots of onions, and so we can grow really, really good onions over there. We don't have Vidalia, but you can see that's the kind of basic stuff, just like we eat at home. We can grow the same thing over there. Like I said, people are not starving to death at Chimala. Corn, these are several bags of corn that were being stored up at Elsa after a harvest, and so we have to transport those to the market, and some of those go to the schools, okay? We are building a new chicken house. We're going to buy 500 layers and get involved in that, because it takes several different things to get a mission of this size self-supported, okay? Going up the 57 hairpin curves, here's a picture of us going up, or I think this is Nathan's truck, actually. We stopped and snapped the picture, but you can see this just goes up, 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 up. And, okay? Looking at as the early sprouts of the beans are coming up, okay? This is interesting to me, and, you know, everybody has their thing that stands out. This always stood out to me. These are old pictures that Bob Wheeler provided me. His dad, Raymond Wheeler, was a doctor at Mission, at the Mission years ago. Bob's about my age, and he was a teenager when he was at the Mission. And these are some old pictures that they had, that he had provided. This is the old farm house at Elsa. It was an active, robust, moving mission. A lot of things were going on, so far for those campaigns. And this is the old German house that the original Germans lived in pre-World War I. Well, when we came up there, started visiting Chimala, I always wanted to see the old Elsa farm, okay? This is what it looked like. This had just been completely abandoned, and every hinge, every board, every shingle, every door, everything in those houses were taken. And I know where they are. I can go to the nearby village and I see our tile on their roofs, so I know where they are. But, you know, that's just how it is. It was abandoned in the 70s, and the last missionaries left, and it was just sort of left. Nothing happened to it. You got 325 acres, 250, whatever it was, sitting there doing nothing, and this is what comes out of that. And so we saw that, and we said, this is terrible. This is tragic. And so we made it our objective, next slide, to build back that house. We wanted to restore it. We knew it was impossible. We had to completely redo the foundation, but we used the same bricks, the exact same bricks, and used those bricks to build this 3-bedroom, 2-bath ranch house. And so we use it as a house. It's kind of a staging place so that we come up that mountain. We don't want to do that every day. It'll wear your vehicle out. So we can stay there as long as we want to work the area in evangelism, as the farm. It's a location where we can go and stay. Daily life, I'll have to go through this pretty quickly. You know, life is always, you have some things you do every day, some things are different. Every morning at 7:30 chapel, this is chapel at the shop. We have a full maintenance shop, automotive, woodworking, you know, electrical, plumbing, anything that needs to be done. We have parts, and screws and hardware kind of stuff. And so here are all of our shop workers, different people who work there, coming in there for chapel every morning. This is one of my favorite places because some of these guys are not Christians. And so it gives us a chance to really preach to them. And we preach to them. I mean, we in love, but we preach real direct to them. And so we're hoping, you know. But we're there to start the day off right. This was kind of fomented years ago at the beginning, and it was a practice that has continued on, and we don't see any reason to end it. But all over the mission, the hospital, the schools, the shop, school of preaching, 7:30, we have chapel, okay? Here's our library. We have frequent meetings, and we get the heads of the different departments and other related people to come, and we discuss the mission, the finances, and a lot of things, so this is kind of a common thing. Of course, there's things going on all the time. The hospital's working, the schools are teaching, the school of preaching guys are having classes. This is Menard Swela. He's our administrator, and so he's there. I think Christy put them on there. I wouldn't have done that, but anyway, I don't think they went riding anywhere. So anyway, just for the picture. There they are. They have their daily classes. Emmy wasn't old enough for school, but Eden was doing it, and she wasn't going to let her big sister outdo her. So she's doing the same thing her sister's doing, okay? They have kids, they have friends, they play, have a good time. I'm really happy about it. They don't recognize color of skin, and I'm really glad that they're able to just recognize these are people just like everybody else, and they play with them, have fun. They love Menard, they love Ezekiel, just like they do anybody else, okay? And so just more pictures of things. We do have challenges. In fact, when we started 2019, some of the people wanted to change our name of our newsletter from the Challenge of Africa. They want to change something else. I said, no, it's staying Challenge of Africa. It has to stay the same because it is a challenge, a lot of challenges. We have snakes. This is one of the African rock pythons. This is a black mamba that was killed there. Green mambas. We've got bats. We've got geckos, which are fine. They're good. They kill mosquitoes. And ants. We have lots and lots and lots of ants. And they're bad. They get out in your yard and they just cover your yard. But you just have to leave them alone and they'll just go away. Okay? And power is a big issue. As there's a lot of irrigation going on, and there are only so many really big rivers in Tanzania. And so when the water goes down, the dry season, you don't have rain for 8-9 months. The water's a big issue, so the hydroelectric dams are not running. They're rationing the power, and so we have lights going out. And so we use a lot of candles. We have generators, but generator costs diesel, and so these things cost money. We have a solar panel. So in fact, the old Elsa house, new one now, has solar panel. But we have 2 large panel systems for the hospital, and one of the inverters is out. I've been trying to get parts for it from India. I can't even carry a conversation with them. It's just really difficult. So we're probably going to have to replace this entire inverter. So challenges that we do have at the mission, and fires. When Mary and I were there in 2015, there was a large fire at Elsa, and fortunately it didn't affect the house, but it was at Elsa. It wiped out all of our pine trees. We had pine and eucalyptus trees, completely wiped it out. And then the fire started, came down the mountain, and this is coming down the mountain. This is last year, but the one we had was pretty much the same. And every available person, men, guards, gardeners, whatever, goes out there and works on trying to hold the line of our fire breaks. And we're always successful, but it's going to clean out the whole back of the mission. It always does. So that's something we have to always be concerned about. Anyway, there are a lot of blessings, too. You can't see the word blessing, but there's the word blessings. Baptisms are a joy to witness. In fact, we hear about someone's going to be baptized, everybody gets excited, and they run over to the pond or to the church building, baptistry, if it's got water, to witness baptism. So that's a great blessing to be there. The hospital is a blessing, too. We were there last summer. Nathan got a 104-degree fever. Didn't know what it was. We thought it was COVID. We never could really establish whether it was or not. But first thing we think is malaria. And so we don't want to take chances. So he went over to have his blood tested. They said he's clear. He got better. And, of course, for the girls, it's always good to have the hospital there and the doctors. So that's a blessing. Have a hospital within walking distance of your house is a great thing to have when you're in a place like that. The food, like I said, is plentiful. Now, those small little fish things, you can have those, but all the other stuff is really good stuff. They have it there. We got Coca-Colas. We got Pepsis. Depends on whether you're from Georgia or not. We got little grocery stores. Most of those little groceries are owned by other nations. Like these are basically Asians. Another one, there's a place called Indio. It's owned by a Ukrainian lady. So you can buy all kind of things. Okay, you can see they're displayed on that table. You can get Cocoa Pops. You can get rice. You can get ketchup. There's a lot of things that you would want. You can't get everything, but you can get a lot of the things at these stores, although it is a little more expensive. Jane, as one of our cooks there, she's showing the girls how to make cookies, and they want to watch. You got samosas, you got rice, palau, beans, all kind of peas, carrots, fresh vegetables. That's, unless you don't like that stuff, we do have it there. So it's not that bad. And Jane's homemade cinnamon rolls are to die for. They're really good. So there are a lot of blessings there at the mission. This is Kisa, helps with the house here. She's measuring Emmy for a little dress or something. And then, of course, one of the great blessings of being at the mission is whenever the container comes in. This is a container that we started back in May of last year, or April, actually. In April last year, it finally arrived, I think, in August. And so here it is pulling up to the mission. They unload it, and brother Murray, Kentucky brother, where am I? There he is. Do you recognize one of those tables on there? That came underneath that women's clinic. That's one of them right there. We got two of them. We've got another one, but we got two of them over there, and some desks. And so a lot of these things that we've been collecting and collecting are finally there. And so these are great blessings. There's a whole lot of things on a 40-foot container. And so, and this is the greatest blessing. I was writing a guy, our primary school teacher. I said, I need some news. Tell me what's going on at the school. And he tells me this, that, and the other, and then he sends me this picture. He said, oh, we had some kids baptized. Now, these are like we call them basically 6th and 7th grade kids. There were 30 kids that obeyed the gospel all the same day, all one day. You say, well, that sounds suspect. These kids are taught the Bible every single day. And it's kind of like anything else. You know, I remember as a kid, you know, you want to be baptized, but you're just kind of not quite ready to do it, and somebody does it, and you say, okay, I'm ready, you know. And that's kind of what happens there. So we had these kids who obeyed the gospel as a result of being there at the mission. So that, I said, that is the news. That's the kind of news I want to hear. So anyway, that ends our presentation this morning. And I know it's a lot to try to grasp in a little bit of time, but I hope that it does give you some insight as far as in picture form of what goes on at the mission. There's so much more that happens there than I can even begin to explain. But again, I want to thank you. We thank you for your support. Thank you for your commitment to continue to be with us, your patience, and allowing us to come from time to time and tell about the Chimala mission. Thank you.